So now we're going to keep going with qualitative and quantitative data. Before we talked about qualitative and the different types of that and quantitative. So we're going to keep going. So there are four now different levels of measurement. There's nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. So the higher the level of the measurement, the more mathematical calculations can be performed on that data. When we do statistical analysis as statisticians, we will actually go down and look at these levels of measurements to determine if we're doing the right kind of analysis on the data. So let's talk about nominal and ordinal. Okay, we're talking about qualitative data. Nominal comes from the Latin nomine, which means name. So we're talking about anything that has a name. So what it does is it puts data into categories. There's no order or ranking can be imposed, and it's qualitative data. You can't do any kind of mathematical calculations with nominal data. So some examples are gender, zip code, political affiliation, and religion. Now, ordinal, on the other hand, you can classify data into categories, usually qualitative, and there's ranking. But there's a ranking, a natural order, but there's no differences between the ranks. So an example of this would be letter grades, A, B, C, D, F, judging a contest, you came in first, second, or third, and ratings like above average, average, below average, poor. The Likert scale is an example of this, and it's used a lot in psychology and other things. And this is an example of ordinal data. Now, measurement scales. These are the tricky ones that people sometimes get caught up on, so I'm going to try to explain them as best I could. The first one is interval, and the second one is ratio. This is only for quantitative data. So interval ranks and orders the data. Precise differences between the units do exist, and they're meaningful. But the big thing of this is there is no meaningful zero. Zero is simply a placeholder. So examples of this are temperature, where zero doesn't mean no heat at all. It just means it was 0 degrees outside. IQ scores, zero doesn't mean there's no IQ, and calendar dates. Ratio is a little bit easier to understand. Again, it's quantitative data. It ranks and orders the data. There are differences, and they exist, and they're meaningful. But true zero exists. Zero means the absence of something. You can add, subtract, multiply, or divide the data values and use them in a meaningful way. So let's look at this. Some ways that you can do that is height, weight, area, numbers of call received, and salaries. So remember, a true zero exists on these. Because you can have zero calls made on a day. If you're unemployed, you could have a zero salary. It's these kind of things that you have to look for when you're working on these problems. So here it is broken down. Now remember, with quantitative, we had two other ones too. We had discrete and continuous. So quantitative can be divided into two ways: interval or ratio, or discrete or continuous. Qualitative is a lot easier. It's either nominal or ordinal, and that's the only choices you have. So let's do some examples. The free throw shooting percentage of a basketball player. Well, we know that's quantitative because we can do math with it. But the next thing you have to ask yourself, is it ratio or interval? Number 10, a survey responds, are you predominantly left-handed or right-handed? That's really a left or right. So we know that's qualitative, and either you're left-handed or you're right-handed. So there's really no order to that. That would be nominal. Temperature in Fahrenheit in Georgia, and the individual page numbers at the bottom of each page in a book. Okay, so when you go back and look at those, you'll see that some of 10 and 12 were qualitative, and 9 and 11 were quantitative. So you want to start looking at those differences to see how they make sense. I would play with them in the book And if you always ask yourself, is it quantitative or qualitative? If it's qualitative, then you just need to see, is it nominal or ordinal? If it's quantitative, you have to see if it's continuous or discrete, and then you have to see if it's interval or ratio. Let me know if you have questions. Thanks.